thank you very much, Professor Dean, for your kind words. Welcome Professor Vimarendra Kumar. Now it's time for the special lecture by Professor Vimarendra Kumar. I would like to invite Professor to present your lecture by this screen. Okay, I already share. Okay, you can control by this scroll. Just let me check. It's full screen. This one. Please.
Thank you very much. Karuna Sital Hadayam, Payya Pajot Bihat Motamam, Sarada Marulo Garu Bande, Suktam Gati Vimuttam. Most respected Venerable monks, most respected Professor Chirapatu Parapan Vidyaji, respected Dean Faculty of Humanities, Silpakorn University, Sanskrit Studies Center, Director of Sanskrit Studies Center, Silpakorn University, Professor Sombatji, Professor Samyang Lumisai, and research scholars and students of this Sanskrit Studies Center of Silpakorn University. And those persons who have joined this online lectures as well as offline in the seminar hall of this Silpakorn Sanskrit Studies Center. I feel myself very much privileged and proud to get associated with this Sanskrit Studies Center. And it is through the Embassy of India in collaboration of Sanskrit Studies Center of Silpakorn Sanskrit University, this talk has been arranged. The main purpose of this organizing this lecture is to understand the teachings of the Buddha in a practical manner. As we know that teachings of the Buddha are having the pariyatti and patipatti, that is the theoretical teachings of the Buddha as well as practical teachings of the Buddha. And these practical teachings of the Buddha, until unless there is a theory, the practice cannot be done. So theory must have the tool to understand the teachings of the Buddha also. And there are so many techniques or the tools or the practices which have been prescribed by the Buddha in the teachings of the Buddha available in Pali literature also. So this is the Vipassana technique which has been adopted by the Buddha, and it was not in the common people. Recently, this Vipassana, insight and mindfulness, that is the sati, they have become part of solving the psychological problems in the contemporary world. And Vipassana, I am going to talk about that how Vipassana is going to solve some of the problems which are psychological, which are arising in our mind, and how we can overcome those psychological immoral states which are arising in our mind. So there are techniques related with the meditations, and there are so many techniques which have been given to understand the teachings of the Buddha in a very perfect manner. But this Vipassana is to experience the teachings of the Buddha in inner way also. And so whenever this, the teachings of the Buddha which are applied in our day-to-day life, it becomes a subject of socially engaged Buddhism or social activism. Now there are so many theories which are adopted: socially engaged Buddhism, applied Buddhism, green Buddhism. And new term has been coined by the scholars like social activism, that how the teachings of the Buddha are applied in our day-to-day life. How can we overcome our psychological problems through the technique which have been prescribed in the teachings of the Buddha. So I am going to discuss some of the problems which have been discussed in our text. And this Vipassanā is nothing but it is a kind of meditation. We'll talk that how this Vipassana technique has been discussed in the text Visuddhimagga, for especially those who are monks and the nuns, and how other practices which have been meant for the lay people, upasak and upasikas. So this Vipassana and sati, that is the meditation and mindfulness, they have become one of the expressions of our social activism or applied Buddhism. So we, through this Vipassana or mindfulness, we find the way of healing which are applied to solve the problems. And this healing is an intrinsic paradigm of entire Buddhist enterprise. So Buddha is considered as a great physician who gave solution for the basic illness of human existence. And in Dhammapada also we find that Buddha says that Jagatsha Parma Roga, that desire is the main element of all the disease. And there are so many diseases which have been uprooted by the teachings of the Buddha, and that is why Buddha is called as a great physician, Mahabhisaka. So the teachings of the Buddha are in the sense of medicines to remove or uproot the diseases which are coming in our mind through the psychological immoral states. So this is, before coming to the main point, Vipassana. So this engaged Buddhism or social activism, this concept which was coined by one of the great social engaged thinkers, Thich Nhat Hanh, who thought that there is a need of applying the teachings of the Buddha in day-to-day life. The monks and the nuns are not meant to remain inside the monasteries, but they should come outside the monastery and they should work for the welfare and the development of the society. So this, if you go through the whole teachings of the Buddha or life history of the Buddha, we find that how the whole 45 years of Buddha shows that how that it was a life of the social engaged Buddhism or social activism. So this is the nomenclatures. There are so many names which are meant for the development of social, political, economical, or ecological problems of the society. So this term, which was coined by Thich Nhat Hanh in 1963, the main purpose of this establishment of the this socially engaged Buddhism, that how the people can be interdependent with each other, how man, nature, and environment are independent with each other. So the order of interbeing was coined by our Thich Nhat Hanh, the great revivalist of this socially engaged Buddhism. And This order of interbeing was started as an engaged group to solve the psychological or social problems in the society. So this engaged Buddhism is nothing but it is a phenomena that has grown steadily over the past 30 years in the Western scholarship and Buddhist countries, according to it. The Buddhist path is one of which is the self-development and service to others are inseparable. So they believe that society and the individuals are interdependent and mutually constructive. Man, nature, and environment both are causally related with each other and they are mutually constructive to each other also. Man is dependent on nature and nature is dependent on our environment. Man cannot live without the plants and the animals. And animals and plants also, they cannot survive without the man also. So this is to transform ourselves as we transform all our relationship and our larger society. So it is work at times from the inside out and times from the outside in, depending on needs and the conditions. So this meditation has the two aspects. There are two types of samatha meditations and Vipassana meditations. Samatha is the calming down of the mind. It is another name of Rupa Jhan and Arupa Jhan. And Vipassana meditations is the higher technique of meditations through which there is a destruction of the ignorance and there is a realization of that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. So when the realization of the nature of the reality, that is the anicca, dukkha, and anatta, these are realized by the Vipassana. Vipassana is made up of two words, vi and passana. Vi means visesh, that is the special. Passana means that is the to visualize or to see the nature of the reality. That to visualize the nature of the reality in a special manner, that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. This is called as Vipassana. We will come to that. What is the difference between samatha and Vipassana? So this, these all samatha and Vipassana, that all leads towards a state of eternal bliss or nirvana. So there are two types of samatha bhavana and Vipassana bhavana. These two are available in our Pali text, especially in our Abhidhamma Sangho, the text of Abhidhamma Pitaka or commentaries of the Abhidhamma Pitaka. And we also find this Visuddhi Mag, the magnum opus work of Acharya Buddha Ghosh. So these are the two types of bhavana if you go through, that is the samatha bhavana and Vipassana bhavana. So this samatha bhavana, it has the aim to develop the calm, concentrated, unified state of consciousness as a means of experiencing inner peace and generating wisdom and the right understanding. It is another name of Rupa Jhan and Arupa Jhan. In Rupa Jhan, there is a curtailment of the 5 types of hindrances, nivarnas, namely Kamachand, Vyapad, Thinimidhu, Udach, Kukuch, and Vichikitsha. These 5 hindrances which put obstacle in the path of concentrations, they are being removed by this samatha bhavana and Vipassana. And then Vipassana bhavana, it is the higher stage of the concentration through which it is the meditational development which aims at gaining direct understanding of the real nature of the phenomena. It is regarded as the essential key to get a state of eternal bliss. So these techniques have been developed in our later commentaries of Pali text. We are going to discuss in a very brief manner. There is a more than 8 to 10 chapters which are discussing Vipassana in the text Visuddhimagga by Acharya Buddha Ghosh. So this Vipassana has been discussed by Acharya Buddha Ghosh in the magnum opus work Visuddhimagga by citing a classical example of insight tree. There is an example which has been given by Acharya Buddha Ghosh, that is a tree, that is the vriksha or rukh in Pali. So Vipassana tree or Vipassana rukh as a tree has the roots also, and there are trunks, and in the same way a Vipassana tree has also the roots and as well as the trunks also. So there are altogether 7 stages of purification which have been cited by Acharya Buddha Ghosh in Visuddhimagga. And this is Visuddhimagga, which discusses about the 7 stages of purifications. It has been discussed by the Blessed One, the Buddha, in Rathabinit Sutta of Majjhima Nikaya. So there are 7 stages of purifications which have been discussed by Buddha also in Rathabinit Sutta, which have been developed by Acharya Buddha Ghosh. And these 7 stages of purifications are Sila Visuddhi, Chitta Visuddhi, then Patipada Yana Darsana Visuddhi, Kankha Vitarana Visuddhi, Ditthi Visuddhi. So we'll come that how these are coming as a 7 stages of purifications. The first 2, that is the Sila Visuddhi and Chitta Visuddhi, they are considered as the roots also. So here, for the grounds, it is called that man is a composition of mind and matter, Nam and Rupa. So all the Dhammas which are in the form of, that is the Panchaskandha, Rupaskandha, Panchaskandha in the name of Rupaskandha, Vedanaskandha, Sanyaskandha, Sankaraskandha, and Vijnanaskandha. And there are 12 bases or 18 elements. And there are 4 noble truths and law of dependent originations. They become the ground for the insight tree. They become the base of the, you can say, for development of a Vipassana. And before this aggregates, I am not going to discuss that man is a composition of 5 aggregates or 12 bases or 18 elements and 4 noble truths. This becomes the basis. Without the basis, Vipassana cannot be developed. So now, how this Vipassana bhavana can be done, or how the practical applications of the 7 stages of purifications which are discussed in Rathabinit Sutta of Majjhima Nikaya, as well as in the chapters of Visuddhimagga, we are going to discuss in a brief manner. The Dhammas serve as a ground, and thereafter the gradual purification of the 2 purifications as a roots and 5 purifications as the trunks also. So these 2 purifications are called as Sila Visuddhi and Chitta Visuddhi. These are the 2 purifications which are called as roots. And there are 5 stages of purifications. They are called as a trunk or branches of the Vipassana tree. So these Dhammas serving as a ground of the insight through appear many in number, may rightly be reduced to 2 states only, mind and matter, that is the Nam and Rupa. So mind refers to the 121 types of consciousness or 89 types of consciousness and 52 types of psychic factors, that is the Chetsikas. So mind, it is called as a Chit Chetsika Dhammanamti Namam Viditabam. That Chetsik, that is the consciousness and the psychic factors, they are constituting the name of the mind, that is the Nam. In Dhammasangani, it has been defined as Vedana Khando, Sanya Khando, Sankara Khando, Biyana Khando, Asankatha cha dhatu idam bucchati namam. And the Rupa has been defined as a Ruppati Rupam, that which changes itself at every moment. And Chattaro cha Mahabhuta Chatunnam cha Mahabhutanam Upada Idam Buchati Sabbam Rupam. So there are four basic elements, namely Pathvi, Apo, Tejo, Vayo, and 24 types of Upada Rupa, that is the generated material qualities. So these Nam and Rupa are constituting the personality. So there is no essence besides these four types of Upada, that is the Mahabhut and Upadarup, as well as Chit and Chetsika. This is the compositions. So this mind and matter are only tips of the Dhamma, that is the Dhamm Punj Matra. And they are subject to impermanence, subject to suffering, and subject to soulless. So there is no essence in them at all. That is why it is said that there is no soul in the personality of a human being. Na hettapaggalo palavati. So thus, there are two roots which are called as Sila Visuddhi and Chitta Visuddhi. These are called as two roots. First of all, we will discuss in a brief manner what is the Sila Visuddhi and Chitta Visuddhi. So this is the purification through the morality, that is the seal. Acharya Buddha Ghosta seal defines in the sense of silana, that is the composing. And then he says that silan is in the sense of samadhan and upadharanam. So here seal is in the sense of coordination of the actions, whether they are moral or immoral, in the sense of good conduct, by the way of good conduct. Kai kam adinam susilya vasena vikapanita ti athoti samadhanam. So here seal is in the sense of samadhan, and upadharan is in the sense of kusalanam dhammanam patithan vasena dhara bhavoti atho. That it is in the sense of giving the base of the establishment of the moral dhammas. So seal is in the sense of samadhan and upadharana. So whenever there is a purification by the samadhan and upadharana, this is called as seal visuddhi. Acharya Buddha gives there are four types of seal visuddhi for the purification through the morality, that is called as Patimukha Sambar seal, Indriya Sambar seal, Ajiv Parisuddhi seal, and Pachay Sanisiddhi seal. First is called as Patimukha Sambar seal, that is the restrainment through the following the 227 rules for the monks and 311 rules for the nuns. So whenever there is a restrainment or purification through the 227 rules and 311 rules for the nuns, this is called as Patimukha Sambar seal. Patimukha is the code of conduct for the monks and nuns. And there are two types of Patimukha, Bhikkhu Patimukha and Bhikkhuni Patimukha. Bhikkhu Patimukha consists of 227 rules available in the Parajika and Pachitya text. And in Parajika, we are having the remaining rules for the monks and nuns, like Anitya Dhamma, Nisagya Pachitya, Pachitya, Adhikarana, Samatha, Sekhiya Dhamma. So these are coming under the Parajika. So whenever the restrainment or purifications which are being done by the 227 rules or 311 rules for the nuns, they are called as Sila Visuddhi. And here seal is nothing but it is the curtailment of the physical and vocal misdeeds. There are three types of physical immoral actions, and there are four types of vocal misdeeds. So curtailment of these three, Panatipata, Adinnadana, Kamesu Mikchachara, and curtailment of the four types of vocal misdeeds, Musavada, Pisunavacha, Farusavacha, Sampalapa. This is called as seal here. And it is being followed by the rules of the 227 rules for the monks and 311 rules for the nuns. Then second is called as Indriya Sambar seal. we are having the six senses, Chakshu, Srot, Ghrana, Jihiva, Kaya, and Manu. And there are six objects also, namely Rupa, Sabd, Gandha, Ras, Asprastabha, and Dhammayatana. And a sense has its capacity to catch its respective object. And whenever there is a catching of the object, there arises the attachment also, and then it creates the suffering. So here there is a restrainment or purifications through the restrainment of our six senses also. And whenever there is a restrainment or purification of our through the six senses, this is called as Indriya Samvar Seal. The next is called as Ajiva Parisuddhi Seal. Whenever there is a purification of the morality through our right livelihood, this is called as Ajiva Parisuddhi Seal. There are 5 types of bad professions which have been told by the Buddha also. That is the Samma Ajivo, that Michha Ajiv Pahai Samma Ajivikena Kappati iti Samma Ajivo. So whenever there is a purification through the morality, the rules which have been prescribed in the right livelihood, this is called as Ajiva Parisuddhi Seal. And the lastly, it is called as Pache Sanisiti Seal, that whenever there is a purification through the 4 requisites which are meant for the monks and nuns, that is the Chivara, Pindapata, Rukhmul Senasanam, and Puttimut Bhesaja Parikhar. So the monk and nuns are supposed to follow these only 4 requisites, not beyond of these 4 requisites. Buddha also says that Ghasa Chadan Paramtai Bhikkhu Santutto Hoti, that a bhikkhu must be satisfied by covering the body by the grass and the leaves, and to sustain the body by only taking the things which can sustain your body, not beyond of that. So these are the 4 requisites, and whenever there is a purifications through this Pachya Sanisita Seal, this is called as a Pachya Sanisita Seal, and these are called as a Seal Visuddhi. Now we are coming to the Chit Visuddhi. Here Chit is in the sense of Samadhi. That Buddha Ghosa said that Chittam Ti Samadhi. So here Chit is in the sense of purifications through meditational Rupa Jhan and Arupa Jhan. So it is another name of the concentration, which is one-pointedness of the moral consciousness. Acharya Buddha Ghosa defines it Kusal Chittasya Ekaggata Samadhi. That here Chit is nothing but it is the one-pointedness of the moral consciousness. A consciousness which is immoral. The one-pointedness cannot be called as a Samadhi. So Acharya Buddha goes in the 3rd chapter of Visuddhi Magga, that is the Kamatthana Gahan Nidesa. He gives a description of the Kalyana Mitta. And he says that who can be a Kalyana Mitta? And there are 40 subjects of meditations. These are called as Kamatthana or Chattalis Kamatthana. This Kamatthana is made up of 2 words, Kam and Thana. Kam means action, Thana means place. The literal meaning of Kamatthana is place of the action. But here in technical sense, it is called as a subject of meditations. So there are 40 subjects of meditations which have been prescribed in the 3rd chapter of Visuddhi Magga. They are 10 Asubha, 10 Kasin, 10 Asusati, 4 Brahma Vihar, Chatu Dhatu Bhavathanam, Ahare Patakula Sanya. These are the 40 subjects of meditations. But the problem starts that how these 40 subjects of meditations can be undertaken by a person who is in desire of taking Kamathan or for Vipassanā or for mindfulness. So now there is a prescriptions that who can be Kalyana Mitta. Buddha says that Acharya Buddha Ghosa says that Buddha is the best Kalyana Mitta. If Buddha is not available, then the persons who are Arhat, they can be best Kalyanamit, and if Arhat is not available, then a Yogavachar who is in the path of Sotapati Magga, Sagdagami Magga, Arhat Magga, Anagami Magga, he can be the best Kalyanamit also. And if these are also not available, then a person who knows Vinayadhar, Suttadhar, or Matikadhar, they can be also best Kalyanamit. And if these are also not available, then the persons who are only Suttadhar, that is the Matikadhar, they can be also called as a best Kalyanamit or Nikahidhar also. Then there are two prescriptions of the Rup Samadhi and Arup Samadhi. This is the, you can say, another name of the Samatha or calming down. And these 40 subjects of meditations, that is the 44 Kamathan, they have been divided into two parts, that is the Upachar Samadhi and Apanna Samadhi. Apanna Samadhi is that type of concentrations which is excess of our concentration. That one who makes an effort for getting the Kamathan, this is called as excess, that is the Apanna Samadhi. And Upachar Samadhi is that one who is very much near to this our Vipassanā, that type of concentration is. So these 40 subjects of meditations, 44 Kamathan, they have been divided into two parts, Upachar Samadhi and Apanna Samadhi. Now, this the second, we are coming to the remaining 5 stages of purification by a Yogavachar. And we have seen that there are only 2 routes, that is the Sila Visuddhi and Chitta Visuddhi. Now we are coming to this Vipassanā, that is the main 5 stages of purifications. They are namely Ditti Visuddhi, Kankha Vitarna Visuddhi, then Magga, Amagga, Yana Darsana Visuddhi, then Patipada, Yana Darsana Visuddhi, and Yana Darsana Visuddhi. These are the 7 stages of 5 stages of purifications which have been given in the Rathvinita Sutta by our Blessed One Buddha, as well as they have been developed in Visuddhi Magga in the chapters from 14th to 23rd chapter. So we are going to discuss one by one that how these 5 stages of purifications can be done with the help of Kalyanamit. After understanding the temperament of a Yogavachar concerned, there are 6 types of temperaments: Ragcharya, Dosacharya, Mohcharya, Vitakcharya, Saddhacharya, Buddhicharya. So there are 6 types of temperament. After understanding the temperament of the person concerned, a Kalyanamit selects one of the subjects of meditations, which are 40 in number, and it is being given to the Yogavachar. And then he starts this Sila Visuddhi and Chitta Visuddhi. We are coming to the first one, that is the Ditti Visuddhi. The literal meaning of Ditti Visuddhi is purifications of the false view. Here, Ditti is the Mithya Drishti, that is the false view. Whenever there is a understanding that there is a permanent entity in the personality of a being, this type of thinking is called as Mithya Drishti. There are so many Mithya Drishti which have been given in our Pali text also. There are 10 types of Abhyakat Prashna which have been not answered by the Blessed One, the Buddha. That is, the world is eternal, the world is not eternal, the world is finite, the world is not finite. The body and the soul are the same, and body and the soul are not the same. Tathagata takes birth in this life, and Tathagata does not take birth in this life. Neither Tathagata takes birth, nor Tathagata does not take birth. So these are also coming under the Mithya Drishti. But here it is in the sense that no Hetu, there is no permanent entity in the personality of a being. Acharya Nagasen in Milinda Payo says that Sankha Samaya Payanti Boharo Namamattam Jadidam Nagaseno, Suraseno, Veerseno, Siyaseno, that for the sake of naming any persons we call as a Nagasen, Sursen, Veersen, Sihasen, but there is no permanent entity in the personality of a human being. So both are dependent on each other. So this, depending on this, there is an example that how our body, and Buddha also says in Sanjukta Nikaya that Yathahi ang sambhara hoti saddorot hoti yom khandesu hoti sattoti samukti. That just like the parts of the chariot make the name of the chariot, in the same way the Panchaskandhas, they are making the name of the personality of a human being. So this has been said in our Pali text also. And purifications through this false views that there is a permanent entity in the personality of a human being, this is called as Ditti Visuddhi. Then next comes Kankha Vitarana Visuddhi. That there are three terms here: Visuddhi, Vitaran, and Kankha. Kankha means sunset, doubts, and Vitaran means overcoming, and Visuddhi means purifications. Whenever there is a purifications of the, by overcoming the doubts, Kankha or sunset, this is called as Kankha Vitarana Visuddhi. What is the Kankha? There are so many doubts which are that Sattari Kankhati Vichikichati, Dhamme Kankhati Vichikichati, Sanghe Kankhati Vichikichati, Sikhai Kankhati Vichikichati. That whenever a person who has the doubts related with the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and one person who has the doubt in the 10 types of precepts, that's Sikshapada, this doubts makes covering the nature of the reality also. So there is a need of removal of these doubts, that is the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and 10 types of precepts. So removal of these doubts, this is called as a Kankha Vitarana Visuddhi. And everything is dependent on cause and conditions. There is no self-independent entity. Here comes the law of dependent originations, that everyone, whatever the things which comes into existence, they are dependent on some cause and conditions. That is the Hetu. And there is nothing which is called as a Hetuk, that everything is dependent on some cause and conditions. And whenever we come to know about this, that all actions are led by our mind also, and whatever the resultant of the actions, they are responsible for the another existence also. So this removal of the doubts related with all these factors, this is called as Kankha Vitarana Visuddhi. Next, we are coming to the Mag Yan Rasan Visuddhi. There are 4 or 5 words in this. Visuddhi means purifications. Dasan means visualizing or seeing. Yan means knowledge. And Mag and Abang, path and not path. These are the path. Which are the path and which are not the path? By visualizing through the knowledge of this thing, this is called as purification of the knowledge of the path and not path. So whenever persons comes through the Sila Visuddhi and Chit Visuddhi, and after that the Tri Visuddhi and Kankha Vitarana Visuddhi, he comes to realize the nature of the reality. And he understands that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. So he thinks that he realizes the nature of the reality, that what is the anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And then he becomes very much happy that I am going to realize. And then there is a realizations of the knowledge of these 10 things which have been given here. And that a person thinks that automatically there are 10 stage which comes into. So this is the path that we should not be led by these all things, because there is a supernatural light which comes in our mind. And then there is a thrill of pleasant sensation, that is the priti, which comes in our mind also. And then there is a saturation of joy within body and mind. This is called as a pasaddhi, and composure within body and mind. And this adhimukha, that is the strong faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And paggaha, that is pragraha, that is the great energy or virya. Sukha, then deep insight, knowledge, upatthana, and then equanimity, upekha, and lastly, a light desire for this stage, nikanti, to remain in this process of life. So these are coming in our mind. So if a person is associated with these 10 types of our normal things, these are called as a miraculous power or normal powers which arises in our mind whenever a person comes to visualize the nature of the reality, that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. Then these are the stages. They are acting like impediments, palibodha. So a person must be aware that a yogavachar not to get associated with all these 10 types of stages. These are called as a not path, a magga. So a magga is that we have to go through the 4 stages of Sotapati magga, Sagdagami magga, Anagami magga, and Arhat magga. A yogavachar has to move towards the 4 stages of arhathood, not related with this path. So a yogavachar has to be very much aware to lead towards the 4 stages of arhathood, namely Sotapatti, Sagdagami, Anagami, and Arhat. So this is called as our Magayan Dasan Visuddhi. So whenever there is a purifications by the knowledge of that what is the path and what is not the path, this is called as Magayan Dasan Visuddhi. And then next comes Patipada Yan Dasan Visuddhi. Here Patipada means path, Pratipada, Yan means knowledge, Dasan means visualizing or seeing, and Visuddhi. So whenever there is a purification of by visualizing the knowledge of the path, that what are the path and what are the not path. So here a yogavachar has the background of entering into the 4 stages of Arhathood, that is the Sotapatti, Sagdagami, Anagami, and Arhat. He is leading towards to get a state of eternal bliss, that is the Nibbana. And now he is in the process of getting a state of eternal bliss. So there are 9 stages of knowledge which one gets in the process of efforts of Vipassana, that is the insight. So there are 9 types of knowledges which are contemplated by a yogavachar. So these are namely Udaya Yan, that is the knowledge of arising and ceasing of any state or the Dhamma. So by realizing that all things are subject to impermanence, all Dhammas are subject to soulless, and all Dhammas, things are subject to suffering, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, then these are the knowledge which are arising in the mind of the yogavachar, that he comes to know that things are arising and they are ceasing, how we are inhaling and how we are exhaling our breath also. Then next is the knowledge with regard to the dissolutions of the things, that is the Bhangayan. We come to know through that all the Raga, Dvesa, Moha, they have been uprooted or destroyed by through this Patipadayana Dasana. Then there is a knowledge of the that all things are subject to fear. A bhikkhu is supposed to see the fear in the process of repeated existence also. Sansare bhayam ikkhati iti bhikkhu. That one who sees peril or suffering in the process of repeated existence, this is called as bhikkhu, and then this is called as bhangayana, and then bhayana. The next is adinavayana, that all things are full of evils. Whenever there is a knowledge of these, this is called as adinavayana. Then next is called as knowledge of the baneful things as disgusting, nibiddhayan. So this knowledge also appears after realizations of the anicca, dukkha, and anatta. And then next stage which comes in the mind of Yogavachara, that is the muncheti kammayata yan, that is the knowledge about the wish to renounce the worldly things. That when there is a arising of the consciousness in mind that all human beings are subject to suffering, and he removes the household life and takes the life of a bhikkhu or sramner. This is called as yahan par munchati, that renouncing the worldly life and taking a life of a monk. This arises in the mind of a Yogavachara. Then next comes the patisankhayana, that is the knowledge of the reflective contemplation. Then next comes about the sankha arup upekha, that is the knowledge of equanimity towards conditions, things, that all our sankharas, that is the mental dispositions, which are 3 in number, that is the punya visankhara, apunya visankhara, and ananja visankhara. They are subjected to conditions, things, that they are subject to cause and conditions. So this knowledge comes to through this our Patipadayana Dasan Visuddhi. And lastly, this is called as Anulomayana, that knowledge that leads to adaptations, that is according to the temperament of getting a state of eternal bliss. And the last stage of this Satya Visuddhi, or 7 stages of purification, is called as Yan Dasan Visuddhi, that is the purifications through visualizing the knowledge. There are 4 types of here stages, that is the Sotapatti, Sagdagami, Anagami, and Arahat. And there are, after this Patipadayana Dasan Visuddhi, a Yogavachara moves towards the 4 stages, namely Parikam, Upachar, Anulom, and Gotrabhu. So here Yogavachara is going to have a stage of Sotapatti, Sagdagami, Anagami, and Arhat. Before that, he is going to have 4 stages, that is called as Parikam. Parikam is just making an effort by a Yogavachara to have the Vipassanā or concentration or the meditations. And Upachar, one who has made already effort, but he is near to getting a insight or Vipassanā. This is called as Upachara. And Anulom, we have discussed that according to the temperament of the Yogavachara concerned, and Gotrabhu, that is the stage of our senses. So these are to be undertaken by a Yogavachara in a Jovan moments. There are 17 thoughts moments which are called, and out of the 17 thoughts moments, there are 7 which are called as Javan moments by a Yogavachara. So here Gotrabhu, now the first stage of Yogavachara starts, namely as a Puthujana, ordinary persons, that is the Sotapatti, that he has come into the process of getting a state of eternal bliss, Sotapanna. So here it starts, and the life of Aryavan starts here. And now he is on the path of getting a state of eternal bliss. And now he clearly understands through this stage that there is a suffering, there is a cause of suffering, there is a cessation of suffering, and there is a path which leads towards the cessation of suffering. Dukkham Arya Satyam, Dukh Samudaya Arya Satyam, Dukh Nirodham Arya Satyam, Dukh Nirodha Gamani Patipadariya Satyam. So these are being realized by this stage, and these are being fulfilled by a Yogavachara. So realizing, so he passes through the path of fruit stages, gradually attain the 4 stages of sainthood and realizes Nibbana. So these have been explained by Acharya Buddha Ghosh in Visuddhimagga in the 10 chapters in a very detailed manner, for the sake of understanding that what are the stages for Vipassana which have been discussed by Acharya Buddha Ghosh. But now there are some of the other sides of the Vipassana, like mindfulness, will come together, and what are the outcomes of this Vipassana we'll discuss in a very brief manner, that it culminates in realizations of the threefold characteristics of the nature of things, that all things are subject to impermanence, sabbe Sankara anicca, sabbe Sankara dukkha, sabbe dhamma anatta. And from that there is a statement of a state of eternal bliss. This is the Vipassana through which we get it. And it is being experienced by analyzing the changes after meditation practice, by observing how our ignorance, that is the moha, avidya, is decreasing, and how the friendliness, metta and karuna are increasing. This is the result of the Vipassana, that we are having the friendliness as well as compassion. Now, there are some of the aspects which are taken by our social engaged thinkers or practitioners, like Buddhadas Bhikkhu of Thailand, as well as Satyanarayana Goenka ji of Vipassana Research Institute, Igatpuri. They are not taking all 7 stages of purifications for the common man. These are meant for the monks and nuns. Now, how a lay person or anyone who is desirous for getting a state of Vipassana, how he can get a state of eternal bliss. So they have been interpreted by other thinkers also. They are also called as a social activist, and how they are practicing. So here, according to Buddhadas Bhikkhu, that all the different systems and techniques of mental development or Vipassana, Buddhadas finds Anapanasati Bhavana. This is another aspect which has been developed as one of the technique of get our Vipassana. The cultivation of mindfulness with breathing in and out the best also. So Buddhadas also says that the correct and complete meaning of the Anapanasati Bhavana is to take one truth or reality of the nature, that is the anicca, dukkha and anatta, and then observe, investigate, and scrutinize it within the mind with every inhalation and every exhalation. Thus, mindfulness with breathing allows us to contemplate any important natural truth while breathing in and breathing out. Now, again, further Buddhadas has adhered to the original teachings of the Buddha with a style of practice that aims at affecting and transforming the mind-heart on the inside of life through upholding the original message of the Buddha of seeing, knowing, and recognizing everything, including the self and Dhamma, within the matrix of Tilakkana, Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta. So until unless the theory is not being judged through the practice, we cannot understand the teachings of the Buddha. So technique, this mindfulness, according to Buddhadas, is a tool for understanding the teachings of the Buddha or nature of the reality also. Now, Satyanarayana Goenka ji, who is also considered as one of the great social engaged thinker of India, And the technique of Vipassana, which he has developed in Igatpuri, Maharashtra, it has come from the tradition of meditation Yubakin of Myanmar. That technique of Vipassana came from India, and that was developed in our Myanmar Sadhus and the Acharyas of there, and it has come to India, and how this Vipassana technique in the form of sati or mindfulness, it has come to the. So this theory of technique of Vipassana meditation is traceable to early Buddhism. We find in the teachings of the Buddha how Buddha talks about, that is in the Satipatthana Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya or Satipatthana Bhavana Sutta in Sanjukta Nikaya also. There are so many suttas, at least 3-4 suttas which are discussing about the mindfulness. This is one of the aspects through which we can get a state of eternal bliss, nirvana. And this is one of the technique of Vipassana, that visualizing the nature of the reality through mindfulness. So now we are coming to the main aspect which is being engaged by our social thinkers to solve the present problems in the society of the contemporary world. So this Goenka also believes in the doctrine of karma and rebirth. He is not beyond of the karma and theory which had been discussed in our Pali Suttas. He interprets Buddha's theoretical and practical teachings not as a religion, but as a science. Buddha was a very good physician, and he is also called as a great scientist also, because he talks about the development of mind and how we can control our mind also, because the wrong emotions and good emotions, they are developed by our mind also. So according to Goenka ji, that Vipassana can be understood as a psychological analysis of sensation. We are having the 12 links of law of dependent originations from Avijja Pachaya Sankara, Sankara Pachaya Vijnana, Vijnana Pachaya Namrup, Namrup Pachaya Vaso, Vaso Pachaya Vedana, Vedana Pachaya Tanha. Here the Vedana, it has the great role in realization of the nature of the reality through visualizing how the feelings are coming in our day-to-day life. So here, through the 5 types of Vedana, Somanas Vedana, Sukha Vedana, Domanas Vedana, Dukha Vedana, and Upekha Vedana, these are being visualized, that how things are appearing in our day-to-day life, how the nature of the reality, Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta can be realized through the analysis of our Vedana, the feelings. All things are being generated, and even the desires, that is the Kama Tanha, Bhavatanha, and Vibhavatana, they are coming out through our sensations, that is the Vedana Pachaya Tanha. Whenever we say that all the desires which are coming from our sensations. So according to the theory of dependent originations, Vedana is the outcome of contact, that is the first Pachaya Vedana, and the mind with the object also. However, at a deeper level, the cause of pleasant and unpleasant sensation is called as tanha. That is the Kama Tanha, Bhavatanha, and Vibhavatana. So craving is the nature of the attachment of aversions. Now, what Goenka ji says that one is not supposed to develop attachment towards the pleasant sensation, nor aversions towards the unpleasant sensation. We are having the 5 senses and 5 objects also, alambana, and we cannot have the strong attachment with the respective object by our senses. So one has to observe how they arise and cease and develop equanimity based on the insight into their impermanence. Now, I come to the Goenka ji, that a stage may come when the Vipassana practitioner experiences only subtle sensation all over the body, when we say that Vedana Samusarana, that all things are being led through our sensations. So this is an indication of the fact that impressions of the unwholesome roots, that is the resultant of our akusala karma, they are accumulated in life, are considerably reduced. But after having such an experience for a long time, one may again have cross sensations. While explaining this phenomena, Goenka-ji refers to past impressions accumulated in past life as the possible cause. However, the notion of past impressions does not form a central part of his theory. Now, Vipassana meditations involve experiencing present sensation, observing how they arise and cease, and developing equanimity towards them, how the feelings which are arising, how we are inhaling, how we are exhaling, controlling on those sensations. This is called as Vipassana according to our Goenka-ji. To make control on those sensations, that how they are coming inside the human body, how they are coming out, this is controlling our sensation. Anything which is not directly experienced and is a matter of metaphysical belief, it is to be bracketed during Vipassana practice according to Goenka-ji. Now, we are coming to the Vipassana, that is the how sati, mindfulness or smriti becomes the part of the Vipassana. That Vipassana, if you go through it can be summarized in the form of anupassana. Anupassana is the visualizing the things as they really appear, that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. So this anupassana is practiced in the Satipatthana Sutta. So Satipatthana Sutta, it has been discussed in a very detailed manner, that how the foundation of the mindfulness becomes the base of getting a state of eternal bliss. Nyaiponik Ather, who has written Buddhist meditations, he says that mindfulness is the heart of meditations. And in the Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha also says that Ekayano ayam maggo sattanam visuddhiya daditam chattaro satipatthana kayanupassana, vedananupassana, chittanupassana, and dhammanupassana. Buddha says that sati, mindfulness, is the only path through which a person can get a state of eternal bliss. It is quite interesting that in Pali text, only this satipatthana or mindfulness is called as only path through which a person can get a state of eternal bliss. Not in other suttas. Buddha says that there are other paths through which a person can get a state of eternal bliss also. That is why it is called as ekayano evam maggo. That is, this is the only path through which a person can get a state of eternal bliss. Buddha also says that I call mindfulness just like a doorkeeper. As a doorkeeper does not allow any undesirable persons to enter into the house, in the same manner, the mindfulness, sati or smriti, does not allow any undesirable person to enter on the surface of mind of a yogavachar. That is why Buddha says that sati dwariko biyati badami, that it is just like a doorkeeper. So here, there are so many definitions of the mindfulness which had been told by Acharya Nagasen in Milinda Panyo, that it is in the sense of apilapana lakhana and upagan lakhana, that this mindfulness has the characteristics to remind or to become aware of all these things. So reminding again and again has the characteristics of this mindfulness, and upagahana lakhana is in the sense of undertaking or keeping the things in proper manner. So this has been told by our And there are 4 types of mindfulness in a very brief manner. That is the Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and Dhammanupassana. Here, Anupassana is being aware related with the 32 parts of our body. That is all physical activities are being governed by our Kayanupassana. So a person who is being aware of all 32 parts of the functions of the body, this is called as Kayanupassana. And Vedananupassana is being aware of all 5 types of feelings, namely Somanasa Vedana, Sukha Vedana, Domanasa Vedana, Dukha Vedana, and Upekha Vedana. And when a person is being aware of all 89 or 121 types of consciousness, this is called as Chittanupassana. And when Dhammanupassana, that being aware of all the teachings of the Buddha, namely 4 Noble Truth, Eightfold Path, Law of Dependent Origination, this is called as Dhammanupassana. So these are being practiced by Yogapachar, remaining ardent, self-possessed, and mindfulness. One has to be very attentive related with these 4 stages of our foundation of mindfulness, namely Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and Dhammanupassana. And they are not, all these 4 are not undertaken at a time by a Yogavachar, but any one of these 4 can be undertaken by a Yogavachar, and they have all benefits for getting a state of eternal bliss. There are other tools related with the mindfulness, which is called as Sampajanya. So Sampajanya is another name of the Sammaditthi or Panya. That when a person or Yogavachar who knows the things that all things are anicca, dukkha, and anitta in a very right manner, this is called as Sampajanya. That is Samma Pakarehi Anicca Adini Janati iti Sampajanyam. So these is that how the things which are appearing, arising, and how they are ceasing in the right manner, how the anicca, dukkha, and anattama are being known, this is called as Sampajanya. Now, what are the benefits of mindfulness? So here, there are first 2, Kayanupassana and Vedananupassana. So Kayanupassana, that it helps in the to the Yogavachar who is related with the temperament of desires, that is the Tanha Charita. And those who are sluggish in nature, making an effort of getting a state of eternal bliss, this is called as Kayanupassana. And Vedananupassana is also related with those persons who have sluggish or they are very idle in their making efforts for getting a state of eternal bliss, and they are interested for getting a state of eternal bliss, that is the samatha. And then this Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana are the path of the persons who are desirous for higher stages of the temperament of the Vipassana, and they are, that is the Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana, they are related with the persons with the Ditthi Charita. First 2 are related with the Tanha Charita, and the latter 2 are related with the Ditthi Charita. Ditthi is the false view that a person who thinks that all things that there is a permanent entity in the personality of a human being. So this Acharya Buddha goes in the commentary of the Nikaya, Sumangal Vilasani. He has discussed about all these things, that one who is sluggish in nature, and then how a Kalyanamit gives a path of practice for giving purification and realization of the Nibbana. I am skipping this. And then again, this mindfulness has become more popular in our Sanskrit Buddhist text also. In the 9th chapter of Bodhicharya Avatar, the 4 stages of mindfulness, they have been also discussed in the sense of Smriti Upasthan. So there are 4 Kaya Smritis Upasthan. It states that all the human parts, they are empty, they are nothing, they are just like bubbles of the waters, and those which are just like a dream or illusion. So one must not be attached with the 32 parts of our body, and thinking in that way, this is called as Kaya Nupassana. And Vedana Nupassana is that, according to Bodhicharya Avatar, Santi Dev says that neither suffering nor joy is real or truly existence. If suffering were real, it should affect everyone, including those in a state of so-called joy. So here it is said that all the feelings, 5 kinds of Vedana, they are nothing but they are just empty. Then next is the Chitta Smriti Upasthan. There are 2 aspects here, that is how the senses that cognize the object, and the second is that the objects which are cognized by our mind also. So this is called as Chitta Smriti Upasthan. And lastly, it is called as Dharma Smriti Upasthan, that it tells that no phenomena exist truly or intrinsically at the ultimate level. All that appears as real are not in fact real, but like dreams, mirages, and magical illusion, because all phenomena comes into existence only when necessary causes and conditions get together. Now, I am coming to the main topic, that how this mindfulness is going to solve the present psychological problems in the contemporary world. So how this mindfulness is helpful in uprooting the psychological immoral states which are arising. When we are discussing about psychological states, immoral states, they are nothing but they are the immoral, akusala chetasikas, immoral psychic factors or immoral factors, which are 14 in number, which have been discussed in the text of Abhidhamma Pitaka, as well as in the commentaries of Abhidhamma. So this psychological immoral states, which are making conflict in the society, and they are in the form of latent factors, they are called as anusayas. Anusayas are 7 in number, and they are lying dormant on the surface of the mind. And whenever they find time or an opportunity, they become active also. They are 7 in numbers: Kamarag, Ditti, Anusay, Kam Anusay, Ditti Anusay, Moha Anusay, Vichikitsa. So there are 7 types of anusayas which are making mind psychologically immoral. They do not allow our mind to for the state of eternal bliss also. How they are creating problems in our society, I will discuss. There are 14 types of psychological states which have been discussed in the text of Abhidhamma Pitaka. And I will discuss that there are, out of the 14, 4, 5 are very much, that is the Kodh, Upanaha, Irsya, Matsarja. In Pali, it is Issa and Machariya. How they are making psychological problems, and how in general they are creating conflict in the society. How the problems are being caused by these psychological immoral states. So much has been said in our text also, like in Madhupindaka Sutta, or Sakpanya Sutta, or Maha Dukkha Khantaka Sutta. Buddha says about that whatever there are conflict in the society, they are nothing but they are the psychological state, immoral states, which are arising in our mind. So I am not going to discuss in Sankapanya. Buddha discusses about Issa and Machariya, Irsya and Matsarjam. that is the jealousy and miserliness. And in Madhyapadika Sutta, other Krodha and Panaha and Mahadukha Khandaka, there are other immoral psychological states have been also discussed. But in Dhamma text, like in Dhammasangani, Vibhanga, especially in the commentaries and in the manuals of Dhamma, they have been discussed in a very detailed manner. How mindfulness becomes a tool for uprooting immoral psychological states will discuss by one example, like with Kodha, that is the anger. It is one of the immoral psychological state which is causing problem in our society. So in Dhammapada also we have seen that nahi berene berani samantida kudachanam awareness of samanti is a dhammo sanantano. That this Kodha has a great significance in creating our conflict or in our attitude or the behavior in the society also. So how the ill will, that is the patiga or pratigha, or dvesa, that is the antipathy, how it can be uprooted. And how the temperaments, there are 6 types of temperaments like Rag Charit, Dosa Charit, Moh Charit, Tanha Charit, Saddha Charit, Buddhi Charit, and Vitak Charit. There are 6 types of temperaments which have been discussed in the text also. How this anger is related with the temperament of the hatred, that is the Dosa Charita. How those charita can be removed. In the earlier stages of purifications, in the Sat Visuddhi Pakarana, that is the Sil Visuddhi, Chit Visuddhi, and here those charita that a Kalyanamit selects out of the 40 subjects of meditations, like Brahma Vihar. There are 4 Brahma Viharas, namely Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. But here, how mindfulness becomes the problem and how they are problem. So whenever there is the rag, that is the attachment, when there is the rag, when there is the rag, when it is attached with the delusion, that is the moha, that is the avidya. So high rag and moha, they are making that detachment from our society. So here, this attachment is nothing but the rag. When we go through the second noble truth, yayam tanha panobhavika nandi rag sahagata tatra tatra vinandani setitam kama tanha bhav tanha and vibhav tanha. These are coming through this rag, that is the nandi and the rag. And when it is attached with the avidya, that is the delusion or moha, ignorance, that not knowing the Four Noble Truth, Eightfold Path, law of dependent originations, this creates our detachment, and this is the cause of our anger. And there are, in Abhidhamma text, we are having more than 37 types of angers. They are reflected in different manners, and they have been defined in our Abhidhamma text also, like Asuropa, Anatha Manata, Aghata, Issa, Upghata, Upanaha, Kopa, Kodha, Kujhana, Kujhatata. So they are the forms of our anger. The anger takes form in all these, one of the 37 factors, 37 types of our anger. So these are called, these are the psychological immoral states which are creating in our mind also. And these are creating problems in our conflictive behavior, in the creating social problems in the society also. So here in the text also we find that someone asked Buddha that what he could do to eliminate his anger. The Buddha says that study within yourself the thing that cause anger to arise and that cause anger to subside. So the elimination of anger is possible through the upgrading of one's own consciousness by means of mind, culture, bhavana, for which the term meditation is used, often used as advocated in the Dhammasangani. So there are so many terms which have come in our Dhammasangani as a bhavana, that Panya Bala, Samadhi, Indriya Bala, like that. There are so many terms which have been given in our text. So how Vipassana meditation deals with the psychological problems of the anger character in order to create a peaceful life. So this psychological problems of the anger, which we have seen that there are 37 forms of our anger, and it is related with the dosha charita to the temperament of the person concerned who has antipathy, are mostly related to the emotion of anger. This is called as wrong emotions, and there are some positive emotions also. As an emotion, intellectual analysis is needed in order to eliminate anger. Intellectual analysis will lead to understanding. So an intellectual tool for understanding is wisdom. Here, Panya is the tool through which we can understand the immoral psychological state like anger also. Panya is nothing but it is the kusala chitta sampayuttam Vipassanā yanamati Panya. So here knowledge of the insight, an insight knowledge related to our moral consciousness is called as Panya. So this is one of the tool for understanding that what is the anger and how we can remove it. And this is the mindfulness is the medium through which we can overcome through the our anger. So wisdom, Panya, or right understanding is a catharsis of perception and mind by understanding the nature of the process. The development of wisdom is the chief task of Vipassana meditation. Here, through our mindfulness, there is a need that how we can overcome this anger through the tool of the right understanding or the wisdom or the Panya. So see here, there is a chart which will let us know that how anger can be removed. So there are three stages: attitude, intention, and attention. So attitude we can understand through the seal. We have already seen that seal is nothing, it is called as morality, which curtails the physical and vocal misdeeds. There are three types of physical: panatipata, adinnadana, and kamesu mikchachara. And four types of vocal, that is the musavada, pisunavacha, farusavacha, and sampalapa. These are curtailed through seal, that is the morality. And we have seen in the earlier discussions that how seal visuddhi, there are patimukha sambar seal, indriya sambar seal, ajiva parisuddhi seal, and pachay sanisita seal. These four stages, they are coming under this attitude that comes here, seal. And under the seal, the first kayanupassana, there are four stages of our mindfulness, that is the kayanupassana, vedananupassana, chittanupassana, and dhammanupassana. So first, that is the seal. And there are three types of trainings also. They are called as tisikha or trisiksha, namely adhisil, adhichit, and adhipanya, which have been nicely discussed by Acharya Buddha Ghosh in the commentaries of the Vinaya Sutta and Abhidhamma. So how this attitude seal, kayanupassana, becomes the self-restraint. We have seen that through the seal, that is the patimukha sambar seal, indriya sambar seal, ajiva parisuddhi seal, and pachay sanisita seal, there is a self-restraint. One is purifying the Patimukha, Indriya, Ajiva, Parisud, Ajiva, and Pachesanisit. So when we are taking the 4 stages of mindfulness, the first stage is called as Kayanupassana. It comes under our attitude, that is the morality. And it is the self-restraint, that is the Sambara Sila. Now the second, which is called as intention. Buddhism talks about, and Buddha also talks about intention and behavior. Buddha says that Chetana Bhikkhave Kammam Badami Chetitva Kai Kammam Vachikammam Manukammam. That Buddha says that I call mindfulness as volition. Sorry, Chetana Bhikkhave Kammam, I call action as a volition. That is the Chetana. And through this Chetana, all the physical action, vocal actions, and mental actions are being performed by a person concerned. So behavior, all the conducts are also being guided by. In Bodhicharya avatar, there are code of conduct which have been said by Acharya Santidev also. And in the text also, we are reading that how there are code of conduct related with the samadhi. So if you go through the Vedananupassana and Chetananupassana, Vedananupassana is being aware of all the 5 types of our senses. That is the Somanas Vedana, Sukha Vedana, Domanas Vedana, Dukha Vedana, and Upekha Vedana. So being aware of all these, this is come under the Rup Samadhi and Arup Samadhi. This Samadhi is nothing but Kusala Chittasya Ekaggatati Samadhi. That is it is of 2 types, Rup Samadhi and Arup Samadhi. There are 2 stages of concentrations. And if you come through this, our mindfulness, then the second Vedananupassana and Chittanupassana, they are coming under the intention and the behavior. And it is controlling our intent state of our mind also. The lastly, which is called as a Panya, which is a Kusal Chitta Sampayuttam Vipassana Yan. This is nothing but knowledge of the insight through the Vipassana or through the mindfulness. And it comes under the heading attention. And if we come under the category of the mindfulness, it comes under the Dhammanupassana, the 4th stage of the mindfulness, through which there is a person who dispels the darkness of the ignorance, that is the avidya, and he comes to know that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. So by this way, if you go through the self-restraint, intent state of mind, and wisdom and awareness, aware this anger, Krodh or Godh can be uprooted by a Yogavachara. So these are the stages through which a person can understand that how mindfulness or the Vipassana, which is available in the 3 stages of 3 Sikha, Sil, Samadhi, and Panya. In another way, they are representing the attitude, intention, and attention respectively, how they are uprooting the psychological state of mind. In the other way also, there are so many psychological states. We are not going to a state like Irsya, that is the jealousy or Matsarja, majorliness. So there is a lack of time. I am just skipping all these things. So now, lastly, I am coming to my concluding remarks that Vipassana meditation is a process of awakening one's mind and thereby achieving automatic self-control through our samatha, and that is the satipatthana, that is the 4 stages of mindfulness. And by practicing self-control, it is very helpful for one to eliminate psychological problems that arise due to the presence of anger character within oneself. And uncontrollable anger character is in fact a disease of the mind that leads to psychological problems and problematic behavior. And if anger is confronted with awareness, then anger automatically disappears. The openness and awareness that upholds through the practice of Vipassana meditations allows one to be more careful, intentional, and precise about one's emotions and behavior. That is the intentions and behavior. So as a result, one will be able to live a very happy life. So this is one of the examples which I discussed, that how anger can be removed through following the 3 stages of training, Adhisil, Adhichitta, and Dipanya, through the Vipassana stage, which have been discussed in the Visuddhimagga, and how in the Satipatthana Sutta, through the 4 stages of mindfulness, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and Dhammanupassana, how a person can be done. So this is a presentations mainly based upon the Pali text and the literatures. I will be very much glad if the questions are put to me, and I will be able to answer those questions also. Thank you very much, and for patience hearing, and for giving me time also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Vimarendra Kumalji, for your very, very profound and impressive presentation for today. Now, may I summarize in Thai language for Thai audience?
Yes, yes.
A little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. ขออนุญาตสรุปเป็นภาษาไทยนะครับที่อาจารย์ท่านบรรยายไว้เนี่ยเป็นถ้าเป็นความรู้ก็ระดับประโยคถ้าเป็นบาลีก็ประเรียน8นะครับแล้วก็ประเรียน9นะครับเพราะนั้นคนที่ฟังอยู่ทั้งบ้านหรือคนที่เข้ามาฟังก็อาจจะงงพอสมควรแต่ว่าในตอนท้ายที่ท่านสรุปให้ว่าการนำวิปัสสนามาแก้ปัญหาได้อย่างไรนี่ก็จะอยู่ตอนท้ายๆนะครับท่านที่ฟังมาประมาณ1.5 ชั่วโมงนี่อาจจะยังแก้ปัญหาไม่ได้เพราะว่ายังอยู่ในเนื้อหาอยู่นะครับผมจะพูดถึงโดยสรุปก็คงไม่ถึงที่อาจารย์ท่านบรรยายนะครับคือ2 ชั่วโมงเกือบ2 ชั่วโมงผมจะสรุปประมาณสักไม่เกิน5 นาทีนะครับ ก็คืออาจารย์ท่านเริ่มจากว่าจริงๆแล้วปัจจุบันเนี่ยก็มีชาวพุทธที่ไม่ใช่พระอย่างเดียวนะครับที่เป็นฆราวาสก็สนใจหันมาปฏิบัติศึกษาวิปัสสนาโดยเฉพาะกลุ่มของหลวงพ่อติดนัทฮันซึ่งเป็นพระเซนชาวเวียดนามนะครับท่านก็เป็นผู้ที่มีชื่อเสียงแล้วก็ริเริ่มกลุ่มของชาวพุทธที่มาเคลื่อนไหวเพื่อสังคมเขาเรียกว่า engage Buddhism นะครับซึ่งก็หลวงพ่อติดนัทฮันนี่ท่านก็เพิ่งมรณภาพไปไม่นานนะครับทีนี้เรื่องของวิปัสสนาอาจารย์ท่านก็ได้พูดถึงวิปัสสนากรรมฐาน2 อย่างนะครับการปฏิบัติสมาธิมี2 ประเภทนะครับก็คือสมถะแล้วก็วิปัสสนามุ่งเป้าหมายสำหรับการปฏิบัติวิปัสสนานั้นทั้งสมาธิทั้ง2 อย่างนี้ก็คือมีเป้าหมายเพื่อที่จะไปพระนิพพานนะครับใครฟังในวันนี้ก็แน่นอนว่าถ้าอยากจะไปจริงก็ปฏิบัติได้นะครับอาจารย์ท่านได้พูดถึงว่าวิปัสสนารุกขะหรือว่าต้นไม้วิปัสสนาเนี่ยนะครับหลวงพ่อที่เราเรียนบาลีที่ท่านแต่งมาคือพระพุทธโฆษะหรือพระพุทธโฆษาจารย์เนี่ยท่านใช้คำว่าวิปัสสนารุกขะหรือต้นไม้วิปัสสนาเนี่ยมันมีทั้งมีองค์ประกอบก็คือสำคัญก็คือมีรากแล้วก็มีกิ่งก้านสาขารากที่สำคัญก็มีอยู่2 รากนะครับแล้วก็มีกิ่งก้าน5 กิ่งนะครับซึ่งก็อาจารย์ท่านก็ได้พยายามอธิบายรวมแล้วก็เป็น7แล้วก็ท่านพุทธโฆษะเนี่ยได้นำความรู้อันเนี้ยมาจากพระสูตรหนึ่งชื่อว่ารัฐวินีตสูตร นะครับก็คือความหมายก็คือรถที่นำพาไปสู่ความเรียกว่าพระนิพพานเนี่ยมีอยู่7ช่วงนะครับหรือว่ารถไฟ7โบกี้ครับไปด้วยกันนะซึ่งจะมีอะไรบ้างก็เดี๋ยวอาจารย์ท่านอธิบายไปค่อนข้างจะยาวแล้วก็อาจารย์พูดถึงเรื่องนามรูปนะครับศัพท์ทางอภิธรรมเลยนะครับจิตมี121ดวงนะครับมีมหาภูตรูปอุปาทายรูปถ้าใครไม่ได้เรียนบาลีหรือไม่ได้เรียนกรรมฐานมานี่นะท่านที่สนใจก็ไปหาอ่านเอาเองนะครับมหาพุทธรูปคือธาตุสี่อุปาทายรูปก็คือรูปที่มันอาศัยอยู่ในธาตุสี่นี่แหละเช่นความเป็นผู้หญิงความเป็นผู้ชายการเคลื่อนไหวได้อะไรนี่ก็นะอันนี้ก็นักธรรมตรีถึงนักธรรมโทและนักธรรมเอกสามารถศึกษาได้นะครับใครที่สนใจนะครับทีนี้พูดถึงรัฐวินีตสูตรเนี่ยอาจารย์ท่านมาพูดถึงรายละเอียดก็คือทางสองทางก็คือศีลวิสุทธิกับจิตวิสุทธินะศีลวิสุทธิกับจิตวิสุทธิแล้วก็ท่านก็อธิบายเรื่องพวกนี้มีอยู่ในคัมภีร์วิสุทธิมรรคนะครับท่านใดสนใจก็ไปอ่านวิสุทธิมรรครายละเอียดได้เลยนะครับปาริสุทธิศีลสี่เนี่ยเป็นคำอธิบายของศีลวิสุทธิปาริสุทธิศีลสี่มีอะไรบ้างนะครับก็มีปาติโมกขสังวรศีลอินทรีย์สังวรศีลอาชีวะปาริสุทธิศีลปัจจยสันนิสิตศีลนะครับซึ่งเป็นบาลีทั้งนั้นเลยใครอยากจะรู้ก็ต้องไปอ่านนะครับเพราะว่าเป็นเรื่องของพระนะครับเป็นเรื่องของพระเป็นเรื่องของฆราวาสอาจจะมีไม่มากนะครับอันนี้ยังไม่เข้าถึงวิปัสสนานะครับท่านพูดถึงสมถะก่อนนะครับแล้วก็จิตวิสุทธิเนี่ยครับพูดถึงอารมณ์กรรมฐาน40ซึ่งก็ยังเป็นสมถะอยู่นะครับพูดถึงฌาน5อุปาจารสมาธิอัปปนาสมาธิก็เป็นลักษณะของสมาธิที่เป็นสมถะทีนี้พอเข้ามาถึงวิปัสสนาเนี่ยท่านอธิบายอีก5นะครับรวมเป็น7นะครับก็มีทิฏฐิวิสุทธิแล้วก็กังขาวิจารณวิสุทธิมัคคามัคคายานทัศนวิสุทธิปฏิปทาญาณทัศนวิสุทธิแล้วก็สุดท้ายคือญาณทัศนวิสุทธิซึ่งจะนำไปสู่วิปัสสนาอย่างรู้แจ้งคนที่ปฏิบัติเหล่านี้ได้เนี่ยเรียกว่าโยคาวจรและท่านอาจารย์อธิบายทั้งหมดเนี่ยครับตั้งแต่ทิฏฐิวิสุทธิจนมาถึงญาณทัศนวิสุทธิอธิบายด้วยภาษาบาลีแต่ว่าแปลเป็นภาษาอังกฤษอีกทีหนึ่งแล้วเราจะแปลเป็นไทยกันอย่างไรอันนี้ผมขออนุญาตไม่แปลนะเพราะมันเป็นเรื่องรายละเอียดทางกรรมฐานมากนะผมก็ท่านใดสนฐานได้เนี่ยพอมาถึงขั้นที่5เนี่ยมันจะมีโอภาสนะครับมีโอภาสมีแสงสว่างแล้วก็มีปีติเกิดความยินดีแล้วมันจะติดเหมือนคนที่ติดอยู่ในกรรมฐานแล้วออกไม่ได้นะครับมันอยู่ในช่วงมัคคายานทัศนวิสุทธิสิ่งเหล่านี้จะกลายเป็นปริโภทนะครับแล้วก็ต้องกำหนดต้องรู้และระวังโดยการใช้ความรู้เรื่องอนัตตานะครับนอนเซลมันไม่ใช่ตัวเราไม่ใช่ของเรานี่อาจารย์ท่านอธิบายอย่างนั้นนะครับแล้วก็พูดถึงปฏิปทาญาณทัศนวิสุทธิญาณ9อย่างก็ชื่อยาวๆทั้งนั้นนะครับอุทยพยญาณจนมาถึงสังขารุปเปขายานและอนุโลมฌานเป็นภาษาบาลีทั้งหมดนะครับผมก็ขออนุญาตข้ามไปกันแล้วกันนะครับแล้วก็พูดถึงชวนาจิตนะครับในการขณะของชวนาจิตเช่นมีการบริกรรมมีอุปจาระมีอนุโลมแล้วก็ไปถึงโคตรภูซึ่งเป็นจุดสุดท้ายของความเป็นปุถุชนหลังจากโคตรภูถ้ารู้ชัดแล้วนะครับก็จะกลายเป็นพระอริยเจ้านะครับรู้ชัดอะไรรู้ชัดอริยสัจสี่ก็จะเข้าสู่การรู้แจ้งนิพพานนะครับทีนี้ผลของวิปัสสนาจะเป็นอย่างไรถ้าปฏิบัติวิปัสสนาก็จะมีเมตตาและกรุณามากขึ้นอาจารย์ท่านบอกอย่างนั้นต่อมาท่านอธิบายถึงแนวทางการปฏิบัติวิปัสสนาของหลวงพ่อพุทธทาสซึ่งหลวงพ่อพุทธทาสท่านก็พูดถึงวิปัสสนาเพื่อมุ่งเป้าหมายที่พระภิกษุและก็แม่ชีนะครับอาจารย์หลวงพ่อพุทธทาสท่านพูดถึงวิปัสสนาในแนวทางของไตรลักษณ์ก็คืออนิจจังทุกขังอนัตตาให้ปฏิบัติตามลักษณะไตรลักษณ์ก็ถือว่านั่นคือการวิปัสสนานะครับแล้วแนวทางอีกท่านหนึ่งคือดร.โกเอนกาที่อินเดียนะครับซึ่งท่านได้เรียนมาจากพม่าแนวทางวิปัสสนาของดร.โกเอนกานี่ปฏิบัติตาม สติปัฏฐานสูตรหรือแล้วแต่จะเรียกว่ามหาสติปัฏฐานสูตรก็ได้นะครับก็คือรู้จักกายเวทนาจิตแล้วก็ธรรมนะครับยกตัวอย่างเช่นเวทนาเนี่ยเวทนาอาจารย์อธิบายว่าเวทนามันเกิดมาจากอะไรมาจากการสัมผัสหรือผัสสะก่อให้เกิดเมื่อเรารู้สึกอย่างใดอย่างหนึ่งสัมผัสอย่างใดหนึ่งเกิดความรู้สึกยินดีดีใจสุขเวทนาไม่พอใจเกิดทุกขเวทนาหรือเฉยๆเป็นอัพยากฤิอย่างนี้เป็นต้นนะครับอทุกขมสุขเวทนาก็ทำให้เกิดการยึดติดนะครับเกิดตัณหาแล้วก็อุปาทานดร.โกเอนกาอธิบายว่าวิปัสสนาในแนวทางของดร.โกเอนกาเนี่ยท่านปฏิบัติอย่างไรท่านแนะนำอย่างหนึ่งก็คือว่าอย่ายึดมั่นอย่าไปยึดติด no attachment กับสิ่งที่มาปรากฏสิ่งที่ชอบก็อย่าไปยึดมั่นสิ่งที่ไม่ชอบก็อย่าไปโกรธอย่าไปไม่ชอบนะครับเพราะทั้งหมดนี้เป็นอนิจจังเป็น impermanent นะครับสามารถการใช้วิปัสสนาเนี่ยถ้าในแนวทางของดร.โกเอนกาเนี่ยมันจะสามารถควบคุมความรู้สึกตนเองได้นะครับคือการปฏิบัติเพื่อที่จะควบคุมความรู้สึกของตนเองส่วนแก่นของวิปัสสนาอาจารย์ท่านอธิบายเพิ่มเติมว่าแก่นของวิปัสสนาเนี่ยเราเรียกว่าอนุปัสสนาก็คือการเห็นสักแต่ว่าเห็นคือรู้สักแต่ว่ารู้หรือการตามไปดูอนุปัสสนาคือการตามไปดูว่าสิ่งนั้นมันคืออะไรแล้วก็ไม่ตัดสินมันนะครับอันนี้เขาเรียกว่าเป็นอนุปัสสนาหรือมันเท่ากับสติปัฏฐานหรือการมีสตินั่นเองนะครับแล้วทางนี้เป็นทางที่ท่านบอกว่าเป็นทางที่เลิศนะครับยกพุทธพจน์มาเอกายโนยังมัคโคภิกขเวแล้วก็ใช้สติกำหนดสตินี่เปรียบเหมือนกับนายทวารหรือคนรักษาคนเฝ้าประตูนะครับตวาริโกวิยติสติวดานินะครับแล้วอาจารย์พูดถึงสัมปชัญญะซึ่งช่วงนั้นขออภัยนะครับมันก็ยาวผมไปห้องน้ำผมเลยตามไม่ทันนะครับก็เลยไม่ได้จดไว้แต่ว่าพอมาถึงช่วงหลังนี่อาจารย์ท่านพูดถึงสติปัฏฐานสี่ที่ปรากฏอยู่ในภาคสันสกฤตบ้างอยู่ในคัมภีร์โพธิจริยาวตารของท่านสารติเดวะซึ่งท่านก็แต่งขึ้นเพื่อที่จะเป็นแนวทางปฏิบัติของพระโพธิสัตว์นะครับท่านอธิบายว่าสติปัฏฐานของในสันสกฤตก็มีลักษณะเหมือนสติปัฏฐานในบาลีเลยก็มีกายเวทนาจิตแล้วก็ดรามะนะครับกายก็เปรียบเสมือนกับบับเบิลนะครับเหมือนฟองน้ำโฟมเนี่ยแหละครับที่มันล่องลอยพอมันสามารถแตกได้นะมันไม่เพอร์มานนต์นะครับเป็น not really exist ไม่ได้มีอยู่จริงนะครับอันนี้ก็เป็นคำอธิบายสติปัฏฐานในเชิงสันสกฤตในทางสันสกฤตแล้วทีนี้มาถึงหัวข้อสำคัญนะครับซึ่งเป็นประเด็นหลักสำหรับวันนี้ก็คือเราจะใช้วิปัสสนามาแก้ปัญหาอย่างไรนะครับอาจารย์ท่านพูดถึงว่าปัญหาที่มันเกิดเนี่ยมันเกิดเพราะว่าเรามีอกุศลจิตแล้วก็มีอนุสัย7ซึ่งอนุสัย7ผมก็จำไม่ได้แล้วว่ามีอะไรบ้างนะครับขออภัยแต่ว่าเมื่อผมเทียบกับเรื่องอริ6ของศาสนาพราหมณ์ฮินดูแล้วก็มีทั้งโลภะหรือว่าราคะโทสะโมหะความโกรธความอิจฉาความตณีแล้วก็ความเข้าใจผิดหรืออะไรนี่แหละครับขออภัยผมก็จำไม่ค่อยได้นะครับแต่ว่าอาจารย์ยกตัวอย่างเรื่องความโกรธหรือทเวชะแล้วก็โทสะจริตมีลักษณะเยอะแยะนะครับแล้วก็ท่านอธิบายถึงลักษณะของวิปัสสนาในคัมภีร์สังคณีนะครับเขาใช้ศัพท์ว่าภาวนาเท่ากับวิปัสสนานะครับแล้วก็วิปัสสนาเนี่ยจะนำไปสู่ peaceful life นะครับก็คือชีวิตที่สงบมีความสงบแล้วก็เกิดปัญญาก็เท่ากับวิปัสสนานะครับเป็นสิ่งที่ทำให้เราสามารถใช้ชีวิตอยู่ในโลกที่เต็มไปด้วยปัญหาได้นะครับถ้าหากว่าเราปฏิบัติวิปัสสนานะครับเราก็จะเชื่อมโยงปฏิบัติวิปัสสนานี่เราก็จะมีศีลนะครับแล้วเราก็ปฏิบัติสามารถที่จะควบคุมตัวเองได้นะครับถ้าเรามีสมาธิมีความตั้งใจแน่วแน่เนี่ยครับเราก็จิตใจเราก็มั่นคงแล้วก็อันสุดท้ายมีความ attention นะครับมีความตั้งใจอย่างแน่วแน่มากขึ้นก็จะเกิดปัญญาหรือ wisdom แล้วก็ทำให้ทั้งหมดเนี่ยทั้งหลายทั้งมวลเนี่ยนำไปสู่การที่เราปราศจากปัญหาคือ free from problems นี่คือข้อสรุปที่ผมสรุปได้น่าจะประมาณสักไม่เกิน10 นาทีจากที่ท่านบรรยาย2 ชั่วโมงนะครับ ท่านใดมีอะไรครับ ก็เชิญนะครับ Okay. Any question from Zoom or from the audience who are watching or viewing the live streaming on Facebook? You can ask the question and then I will ask Professor to answer. We still have time. อาจารย์ครับเชิญครับ
The Pali verse Ye Dhamma
Hetu
Hetu. This is the summary of Paticca Samuppada or the summary of Chaturariya Satya.
Okay. Please.
So thank you, Achan. You have asked that whether ye dhamma hetupabha and this signifies the law of dependent originations. And there is a story that how this Sariputta Moggallana, when he was asked to tell about the teachings of the Buddha of law of dependent originations, then he summarized the whole teachings of the Buddha related with the law of dependent originations in this verse, Ye Dhamma Hetupava. So this is the essence of what he understood. In a single verse, he tried to utter the significance of law of dependent originations. In the Mahabharata, it has been said that Yam Kinchi Samuday Dhammam Tam Nirodha Dhammam Ti. That whatever there is a arising of the things, there is a ceasing of that Dhamma also. That whatever the Dhammas which are coming into existence, they have to seize it. And that has been spoken in this verse, Ye Dhamma Hetupava, that whatever the things which are coming, they are based upon the cause and conditions. Now, whether they are discussing about the Four Noble Truth or not, if you go through the Vinaya Pitaka, the first book of Vinaya Pitaka, then it starts from the Anulomnaya and Patilomnaya of law of dependent originations. Abhijja Pachaya Sankara, Sankara Pachaya Biyan. And then Patilomnaya also, the 12 links of the law of dependent originations has been discussed. Now, after that, there is a Dhammacakkapavatana Sutta. There starts the Dhammacakkapavatana Sutta, and now it Dvame Anta Bhavistena Nasabitabba, that two extremes cannot be taken by a person who has renounced the household life. That these are the Kamesu, Kamsu, Killikana Yogo, and Atkilmathana Yoga. Now, regarding that, Buddha says that this can be Majjhima Patipada. That through the Majjhima Patipada, a person can understand the teachings of the Buddha. It has been already said that this law of dependence is very profound and it cannot be understood by a common person also. And for understanding the teachings of the law of dependent originations, the Four Noble Truths have been also written down in Dhammacakkapavatana Sutta. There are some of the scholars who are of the opinion that Four Noble Truths are not teachings of the Lord Buddha. They were inserted or interpolated by some of the acharyas later on. They are giving some of the references that in Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Buddha talks about only 37 factors of enlightenment. Out of the 37 factors of enlightenment, he does not give the reference of the Four Noble Truths. First of all, this is another aspect of it. Even in other suttas also, we do not find that where the Four Noble Truths has been said there. In the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta of Sanjukta Nikaya and the Majjhima Nikaya also, we are having the references. But this Four Noble Truths have been analyzed in the Mahabharata for understanding the teachings of the law of dependent originations, Ye Dhamma Hetu Pava. One cannot understand until unless a person does not know what is the suffering, what is the cause of suffering, what is the cessation of suffering, and what is the path which leads towards the cessation of suffering. So, until unless a person does not know the Four Noble Truths, he cannot know the profundity and significance of the law of dependent originations. So that is the Ye Dhamma Hetu Pava. Under the Hetu, Ye Dhamma Hetu Pava, that is the essence of law of dependent originations, the Four Noble Truths have been also analyzed in the text Mahabharata. Any more?
Yeah. Any
Because
question?
in Thailand, people understand that the Four Noble Truths is summarized by this Ye Dhamma.
No. This for understanding the teachings of law of dependent originations, the Four Noble Truths have been also written down. So a person must know that what is the suffering, what is the cause of suffering, what is the cessation of suffering, and what is the path which leads towards the cessation of suffering. Until unless they do not know Four Noble Truths, that is why it is also called as that a person must have samadhi also. So a person who knows the right understanding or the panya or pragya, he has the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths. That is the samadhi, sama sankappo, sama ajivo, sama, all eightfold path. Until unless a person does not know out of the Four Noble Truths, he cannot understand the profundity of the law of dependent originations. And this is in the prose form also in Mahabharata, yam kinchi samudaya dhammam tam nirodha dhammam ti. But in the verse form, ye dhamma hetu pava tesam cha nirodho.
Because after realizing the
Four Noble Truths.
Paticca Samuppada, the Buddha said, oh, this truth is very deep.
Very deep and profound.
Nobody will understand it
Yes.
and teach. So
Yes.
first of all, he decided not to teach.
Yes.
And then Brahma came asked him to teach.
Yes.
That's why he decided to teach it.
Arisatya. That is why in Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta there is a detailed
Easy
to understand law of dependent originations.
In order to prove that the truth he had realized can be understood by someone else also, not by him only.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. มี ท่านใดจะสอบถามไหมครับในนี้ก็ได้ครับถามเป็นภาษาไทยก็ได้ครับผมจะ
ครับสวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับผมสถิตนะฮะ
สถิตครับเชิญครับ
ครับอาจารย์ครับคือเดี๋ยวผมถามภาษาอังกฤษดีกว่าดีไหมฮะอาจารย์
สักครู่ครับเดี๋ยวเชิญครับ
Professor, thank you very much indeed for your explanation. I think today I learned a lot from you, particularly in Vipassanā. But Professor, many years back when Goenka was alive, he came over to Bangkok. And I have a chance to meet him and his wife together, and I took him over to our place for a lecture. But his lecture was purely on the practicality of Vipassana, which seems to be very, very simple. And he said that just give me 7 days or come to see me in my place for 7 days and you can understand everything, But when we go through your theory, today, I mean, that's more than 70% or 50% of the Vishuddhi part of the lecture today, which really make us understand a lot. Then, finally you say this is for the person who is a Buddhist, right? Or Buddhist monk, or for the Buddhist bhikkhuni, right? For them to follow that. But for the general people, I think that's what we have learned from you today is also quite a lot, right? But how to be, when you say practicality is only take about 7 days to understand the Vipassana, But when we go to theory, it's so long to understand, and it's very deep down under. Could you please verify this one? Thank you very much.
Can you understand the
Yes.
question? Sometimes the signal is not quite clear. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sathit Kumarji. I have discussed the 7 stages of purifications for those persons who are monks and nuns. And it has been said in the Vipassana training, through the 7 stages of purifications. In the Rath Vinita Sutta also, Buddha talks about the 7 stages of purifications, that how a person can get purifications. And these are the 7 stages which have been discussed in Rath Vinita Sutta. But the persons who are not having much time to go through the 7 stages of purifications, they can adopt a mindfulness or satipatthana, which is called as a foundation of the mindfulness. And through 4 stages of our mindfulness, kayanupassana, vedananupassana, chittanupassana, and dhammanupassana, one can have the vipassana also. And this, out of these 4 types, that is the vedananupassana, that Satyanarayana Goenka ji gives more emphasis that how you can realize the nature of the reality through arising and the switching of your feelings. How the inhaling, you are inhaling the air inside, and how you are exhaling outside them. If you control your mind on these, how it is coming and how it is going out, then you can control your senses also. And all things are dependent on your senses. There are 5 senses. On 5 senses, there are 5 objects. And whenever the senses are having contact with the respective objects, there is a arising of our Vedana. So it is very need of the society to have restraint on those senses. How we put a restraint on all our 5 senses, how we can control our restraint on the eye, ear, nose, tongue, or body. So this is the need of the things. And for Vipassana, it has been made that how you are controlling your mind, first of all, breathing in or breathing outside. This is the technique which has been developed in Myanmar by Yubakin Sado. And this is Satyanarayana Goenka ji, it is also developing. And there are 7 days courses also, 10-day courses also. People are practicing 1 month course also. There are some of the persons who are going to Vipassana every year, every month also. So it is depends upon that how you purify. It is not, it is a continuous or continuity of your purification stage. It is not that within 7 days a person can get purification and he can get a state of eternal bliss. It depends upon the efforts, how you are making an effort for uprooting your psychological states, how you are putting control on your senses, then it comes successful. So that is the need.
Thank you very much, Professor. But one small little question, right? Can you tell me the difference between Vipassana, or you can say mindfulness meditation, and Vedanta way of meditation?
Now, Vipassana is a technique through which a person comes to know that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless. Here, mindfulness is related with only our 4 stages of mindfulness. We have talked together that mindfulness is the only way for getting a state of eternal bliss. There are so many methods and the ways for purification of a human being. And Vipassana is another technique through which 7 stages of purifications are being performed by a Yogavachar. Satipatthana or mindfulness is another technique through which a person can also get purifications through the 4 stages: Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and Dhammanupassana. It depends upon the person that which type of Vipassana he is taking. Both have become a way of our engaged social life. People are adopting Vipassana as well as Smriti also, and Smriti is one of the part of our Vipassana.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.